All right, Unit 6, Lesson 23 notes. So today we're going to basically take and interpret some equations, write a couple of equations, but we're going to do some interpretation, just a little extension of what we were doing in Lesson 22. All right, first one, you have a bottle of shampoo that you're using every morning. Bottle starts off with 32 ounces. You use 1.5 ounces a day. What is the equation of the regression line that you would use, and make sure that you identify the variables that you have. All right, so you're going to start off with 32. And then because you're going down by 1.5, that means your equation would be y hat is equal to what you start off with, which is 32. Because we're decreasing, we're going to subtract the 1.5 times x. And in this, the y hat is going to be your ounces left in the bottle, and your x is going to be the number of days that you use that bottle. Right, so it's as simple as that. So that's the first couple of questions that you're going to have in your homework today. So the first number is basically the constant of what you start off with, and the second thing attached to the x is how much you're going up or down of whatever you happen to be doing. Okay, and again, y hat for those. All right, so the graph that I'm going to have on here is talking about how long a student studies for an exam, which is going to be the x-axis here, the independent variable, and then what they scored goes on the y-axis. So I took and I plotted those points. It was 10 students. And then Desmos created a line that goes through that. I want you to describe the correlation without knowing anything about the numbers of the equation, just strictly based off of the graph. So this one looks pretty strong, positive correlation to me. So that's what I answered on that. All right, then the second part here, you're given the actual regression equation. I want to identify the slope and exactly what that means. So the slope in this thing is 2.74. So again, you are talking about how long they studied versus the grade they got on the exam. So how long they studied is the x, grade is the y. So the slope, if I plug in a number for x, so every time I would increase that by 1, so number of hours studied, 1 hour studied, then their grade should increase by 2.74 points. For y-intercept, that's going to be the 65.38. The y-intercept, remember, means when the x is 0. Well, if I plug 0 in for x, that means you didn't study. So the y-intercept would be what you would score on the test if you didn't study. And then what would happen if somebody studied for a various number of hours, in this case 73, what would you expect them to score? And does it make sense, and then why or why not? So if you plug in 73 in for x, you would get a score of 265.4 on the final. Now, I would typically say that doesn't make sense. You can't score a 265.4 on a 100-point test, although there's nothing in here that tells us that it's a 100-point test. So you could probably argue this either way. You could say in your description, well, if the test was out of however many points, it'd have to be something equal to 265.4 or bigger, then it would make sense. But if it's a 100-point test, it would not. So that would be the type of description I'd be looking for on it. All right, so that is lesson 23. Let me know if you have questions.